You first met Linda at one of those nightclubs?
Yes.
The Bag of Nails, is that
It was
right?
at the Bag of Nails, yeah. It was kind of like my pub, because we always got home too late for a pub experience, like my relatives. We always had to start the pub experience at about 11:30, so it meant nightclubs. And the Bag of Nails was a great one, behind Liberties. Did you ever go there?
Once or
No,
twice.
you were more a Quaglino's man, I think.
I was more of Quaglino's. Yes, I was. Yeah.
I used to slum it, Dave, with the crowd. But I would. It was a great little place to go. There was live music often, always good records. And Linda was down there with a party of people, actually the Animals, the group The Animals, who she'd been taking some photos of for a book. And I was down there with a couple of my mates. And I spotted her. And Georgie Fame and the Blue Flames were playing. So we went down to see them. I spotted her, and then as she sort of went to leave, I thought, no, I've got to stand up here and stand in the way and say hello and introduce myself. I thought, I don't want to let this moment go. So I summoned up courage and did that, and that was how we met.
And so obviously there was if not the old phrase love at first sight, there was instant attraction there.
Yeah, oh definitely, yeah. Yeah, I said we're going on to this other club, which was a speakeasy, another little club of mine. You know, there were just a few that we all used to go to. So you'd see your mates. If you didn't see them in one club, you'd see them in the other. Yeah. So it was our social round, really. Yeah. And I said, would you come to that? And luckily, she said, yeah. That was it.
And then you followed
28 years later, we married with 4 kids.
How long was it from when you met to when you married?
I'm never sure of times in the 60s. They say about the 60s, you know, if you remember anything, you weren't there.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot to that. It was all going on. I don't think it was just that everyone was drinking and smoking and stuff. I think there was so much going on. The Beatles were so busy anyway. But I think it was, I always think it was about a year. Someone pointed out it wasn't quite a year. But we were boyfriend, girlfriend for a while. And then I suddenly realized, wait a minute, I'm more serious about this one than I am about a lot of other girls. I just realized how much I liked her.
What was the thing that was different?
She was a woman. All the other girls I'd met were girls. Obviously, this was brought upon by the fact that she was a divorcee with a kid. So she had to be very practical about her daughter, Heather. My daughter now, Heather. She had a sort of brain. She had to. She was, a single mother. And that attracted me, that she should get on with things and be very decisive and could do things and wasn't just a little shrinking violet. And the other thing, I think, in the end, she was very kind. She was the kindest person I'd ever met. And then love of animals became a thing that when we talked for years, we suddenly realized that we had both been potty about animals since we'd been little. I always used to carry around the Observer's Book of Birds and go bird spotting on my own in Liverpool. You know, I'd go down to Dungeon Lane. Oh, there's a lesser spotted thrush or whatever. But you know, in later years then we got to talk about this. We found we had a lot in common, which eventually turned us into vegetarians. And we've been raving veggies ever since for about more than 20 years now. Anyway, so she was sensible and I wasn't. But it turned me on to the whole idea. And eventually we had a little crop of lambs of our own one year. They were gambling around as only lambs can do in a little gang and being so wonderful and looking so great, and your heart goes out to them. But unfortunately we were eating leg of lamb at the time, and we went, gambling lambs, leg of lamb, gambling lambs, maybe we shouldn't. And she says, I said it. I said, maybe we should try to not do this. Which left a great big hole in the middle of the plate for the first year, because it's always meat and. Yeah. The other stuff is insignificant. It's the and. But she gradually, because she was the better cook, I would try, but she was always much better than me. She gradually filled that hole in the plate with ever more appetizing stuff, you know. So now we don't even think about it.
And Linda's back in full swing with the vegetarian and everything at the moment. Yeah. I mean, her recovery to full health must have been the biggest crisis you went through.
Yeah, it's a terrible shocker, you know. Anyone who's diagnosed with a life-threatening disease, you don't know what's hit you. You know, it's something very serious, obviously. But it gets you to change your priorities. It focuses the the things you think that are important in life. I think that's the only good thing you can say about it. But it certainly does stop you messing around. And I think, for instance, you know, we were talking about Flaming Pie, people saying it's a good album. I think I decided I'd better make a good album. You know, no more messing around. With Standing Stone, I thought, I'm just going to make it a good piece, that's all. And so I think that aspect's good. I think, you know, when you talk about it in interviews, I always like to try and sort of remind anybody at home to get themselves checked, because the sooner you're diagnosed with something like that, the better your chance.
Do you think music, or the world, but music, or the music world, would have been different if the Beatles had never existed?
Yeah, in a word. Yeah, I think so. I think we were lucky to be placed at the right point in time when our generation was finding its feet. As we say, the post-war period, now suddenly all these people were 20 and looking for something exciting to do. The freedom was there. The money situation wasn't bad. There were a lot of jobs and things at that point. And yeah, I think, so we were lucky. We were excited. I think the chemistry of the four of us was very special. I always think of it as four corners of a square. You couldn't do without any corner. You know, people will sort of say, well, Ringo was just the drummer. He was much more than that. Still is to this day. Very witty, very clever guy. No education whatsoever. Went to school for about 3 or 4 days, I think, because he was ill when he was a kid. George was a huge influence. I've seen books sort of saying, oh, George Harrison standing around with his plectrum in his hand waiting for a solo. That's not it. He was much more involved. We were all of us much more involved. The Beatles made the Beatles what it was by being those four personalities. It wasn't just John, it wasn't just me. John and I obviously were the songwriters, except when George started to write really great things, he wrote Frank Sinatra's favourite Lennon-McCartney song, actually, Something in the Way She Moves. Yeah. He introduced it like that. Yeah. My favourite Lennon-McCartney. Hey, Frank, it's not. It's a Harrison. Never mind. But, yeah, you know, and I think in answer to your question, I think, yeah, we changed a lot. I don't think we did it. I think we were spokesmen for a lot of people. People used to say, what about the haircut? And so, you invented that. We said, no, it was this bloke called Jürgen. There was always someone who turned us on, and we just followed it and thought, this is a really good idea, we'll bring that into the mainstream. But we weren't necessarily the inventors of it all. I mean, there were millions of art students and students coming up when we came up who were as bright as we were. Well, it showed in the fashion industry and in plays and in literature and in book writing. There was a generation, and I think it was the war thing, the baby boom thing. But yeah, without the Beatles, it would have been a very different world, I think.
You said recently, you have a thought that the best is yet to come. I just want to write one really good song or whatever, one more really good song. I don't know what do you feel the best is yet to come?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. You know, it's what I don't want to feel is the best is all behind and it's all gone and we should all just give up and go home and shoot ourselves. You know, so I wake up each morning and think, wow, you know, there's that David Frost interview today, or there's this, and oh wow, and Standing Stone's doing well in America, and I've got this concert coming up at Carnegie Hall. There's always something exciting. And having gone into orchestral writing now, as well as my rock and roll, which I still love, I feel so lucky to have done school, been a Liverpool schoolboy, come out of that, gone into the Beatles, gone through all of that phenomenal stuff, then been able to even carry it on with Wings and then my solo career, and kind of, you know, still setting records with the solo band. So there always has been something, even though it seemed an end had arrived. There's always something the other side of it, you know. So I like to think that, and I think that's what keeps me optimistic, really.